We're going to go over some basics for Excel. So if you first open up Excel, click on blank worksheet, double click. So a couple things. Across the top, these are called columns, labeled with letters. Across the left side, these are rows, labeled with numbers. If you click in a cell, like this cell here, that is the intersection of column C and row 6. So that is cell C6. Notice across the bottom here it says this is sheet 1. We can add as many sheets as we want. Each sheet would have its own data. If you want to change the name of a sheet, you double click on it and then you type in a name such as graph or data. We are going to enter some data into this paper. In cell A1 we are going to type in activity 1.3.6a. In cell A2 we're going to type in our name, first name, last name. A3 we're going to type in the title of what information we're going to put in here, which is going to be height of students. Then in A4 we're going to type in feet, and B4 we're going to type in inches. Then, this is just practice here, I'm going to give you some data to type in. Let's say the first person is 5 foot 6 inches, and the next person is 5 foot 4 inches, etc. 5'9", 5'10", 6'2", 6'4", 4'9", 5'9", 5'7", 5'6", 5'11", and an even 6 foot. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to have Excel do some math for us. So these two columns are in feet and inches. We would like to know what this is going to be in decimal feet. So to be in decimal feet, and notice before I continue, this decimal feet, the feet continue past the size of this cell. So I'm going to go up here, move my cursor until it becomes this shape, and then pull it to the right, and I can make the width of that entire column wider. So what I want to do here in this cell, I want Excel to change 5 feet and 6 inches to strictly feet. So to do that, we're going to make a formula and use the equal sign. I want this cell to equal whatever's in A5, which is 5 feet, plus, so I put the plus sign in, I want to take whatever in cell B5 and divide it by 12. By dividing it by 12 it changes it to feet. I add it to the existing 5 feet. If I hit enter, now it changes that to 5.5 feet, which makes sense because 6 inches is half of a foot. 0.5 feet is also half of a foot. Now I could go in here into this next one and do the same thing. Hit an equal sign, type in this, hit plus, go to this cell, divide by 12, etc. But there's no sense in me repeating formulas. It's a waste of time. I go to the first formula that I made. Notice my plus sign here is a white plus sign. If I move my cursor to the bottom right corner, it turns black. If I left click and hold and drag that down, all the way down here to the bottom, it's going to apply those formulas to each combination that's on the left. So here, if you look, it's A5 plus B5 divided by 12. The next one, if I click it, it's A6 plus B6. Excel is smart enough to know that it needs to change these cells that I want to use for these calculations. Now at this point what I don't like is that my numbers in the decimal feet column, there's lots of decimal places. So to fix that, I'm going to click on the first one, I'm going to right click on it then. I'm going to format the cell. Right now it's just a general, so it's just whatever. We're going to change it to a number. By the way, if it's general, it could be numbers, could be words, could be letters. By clicking number, it means that these are only numbers that are going to be in this cell. I want it to be 2 decimal places, which is already pre-selected. I hit OK. Now it changes that to 5.50. I want that format and that formula to continue for the rest of this column. So I change my cursor to a little plus, black plus sign. It changed by putting it in the right hand corner. I left click and hold and drag all the way down. I let go, and it's using the same formula I was just using. In addition to that, it rounds each of these to 2 decimal places. The next thing I want to do is I want to take all of these numbers and I want to add them together. So I'm going to create a sum to do that, and if I look at the way my spreadsheet is arranged currently, I don't like how it's arranged because I would like to be able to say the sum is equal to this. So if I put on this first column a heading, like if I were to type in sum right here, which please don't do this, the reader would assume that every number across this whole row is a sum. So I won't do that. I'm just going to write right here sum equals. So that means the number that's in this adjacent cell is going to be a sum. To get Excel to do this for me, I hit equal sign, which tells Excel what you're about to see is going to be some type of a formula. I want to sum, so I'm going to type in the word sum. Always use a parenthesis after a formula, or after an operator, I should say. Sum is an operator. Notice it tells me here, put the number in you want to add, comma, the next number you want to add, comma, the next number you want to add. Well, I'm going to just left click and hold the numbers I want to add. I'm going to drag down, and it is, notice what it's doing here. It's putting in C5, which is this cell here, colon, which means continuing, and it goes all the way down to C16. Notice how it's highlighted. Notice it says that. Close my parenthesis, hit enter. This is the sum of those numbers. Excel has done all that work for me. Let's say there are other things that I want to find from this. Let's say that I want to know what the mean is. Mean equals. I want to know what the mode is. Mode equals. I want to know what the standard deviation is. 2 types of standard deviation. We want standard deviation of a population. I'll explain later the difference. We want to know what the minimum number is, the maximum, and also the median, which I'm going to put median and then maximum. I'm also going to make this column wider so standard deviation fits in the whole cell. So to find the mean of these heights, I'm going to hit enter. Now I'm not sure which command is mean. So I'm going to go up here to this function button and select that. And I'm going to look through these to see if I can find mean, average. I think this is the right type of average, but you know there are different types. If I read this, returns the average arithmetic mean of its arguments. So arithmetic means, pardon for all the means, it adds up all the numbers and divides by how many there are. That's the one that I want. So I'm going to choose that, hit OK. Now it's asking what numbers do I want to use. So I'm going to go over here to my spreadsheet, left click and hold, and pick all these numbers. And then hit OK. So the average height of these people, 5.7 feet. Mode equals, maybe it's mode. Now when I start typing in something that I think it is, I get 2 choices for mode, a multi-mode or a single mode. I'm guessing it's going to be a single mode because there's only single mode because I think there's only one number that appears the most often. So I select that, close my parentheses, hit enter. So the mode is 5.5. That's the most occurring data. most occurring number in the data. Equals. And also I should mention this is frequently used. So let me type in standard deviation up here. I click go, wait for it to find some choices. So here's a choice. As I look closer, I'm not sure what all these things mean, but this one here means standard deviation S of a sample, and it says it down here. This one is standard deviation of an entire population. We want to find one of the entire population because these heights represent the entire population of people that would be in this class. So we select that. What numbers are we using? So we highlight those numbers, hit enter. That's standard deviation. Minimum equals min. Notice if I put my mouse over each of these choices, it tells me what this is going to do. So min returns the smallest number in a set of data. Alright, so I'm going to select min, and then parenthesis, choose my numbers, hit enter. That's the smallest height. We'll do maximum next. So equals max, parentheses, choose my numbers, hit enter. Next we'll do median. So I'm going to do equals. I'm not sure the shortcut for median, so I'm going to go up here and type median, hit enter, median. So the shortcut for median is the entire word median. So I select that, I select the numbers, hit OK. Excel gives me what the median is. The next thing we want to have Excel find is the range of values. This is just going to be a formula that we're going to type in. The range is the biggest value minus the smallest value. So to find that, we're going to do equals the maximum number minus the minimum number equals. So our range of values are 1.58. Then we're going to take that range, we're going to round that up to the nearest integer. And one way I can do that is I can right click on the cell and format it, and I'm going to say round to 0 decimal places. Puts it up to a 2. And this isn't a true range. We're going to use this number to figure out how big to make our bins. And I'm going to explain what bins are here in a moment. Hopefully it makes sense. So the number of bins that we're going to have depends on the problem. Let's just say for this you're told that you have to make 8 bins. So if that's the case, we're going to store our numbers into these bins. These bins are like boxes that we're going to put numbers in. So to find the size of each bin, we're just going to make an equation. We're going to take our range and we're going to divide it by the number of bins. So that tells us our bin size is going to be this ridiculous number. And I don't like that ridiculous number. That's ridiculous because it's not using the 2 that's here, it's using the rounded version of 2. So I'm going to change this to an actual 2. And when I do that, it changes the bin size to be 0.25. So here's what happens next. We go to data, and then over here there should be a button for data analysis that I don't see. So to turn on data analysis, this is a one-time thing that you have to do. Go to the File button, go down to Options, select Add In. So I see what I want is the Analysis Toolpack, and right now it's inactive. So we go down here to Manage Excel Add-ins, and I click Go. I want to select both of these. Heck, might as well just pick them all. But these first two, especially the first one, it's one we need for this. So check the first one and the others if you want and hit OK. Come up here someplace and we write the word bin. Take the smallest number in your data set Our smallest number, our minimum, is 4.75. 4.75. The next number, we're going to count in increments of our bin size, 0.25. So an easy way to do this is just going to say equals previous number plus the size of our bin. I hit enter, and it changed it to 5. I'm going to take that and I'm going to copy it by making this a darken plus, and I'm going to bring this down. I want 8 bins, so there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that did not work. Now why did that not work? Because I was copying that formula down. Here's the reason. If you look up here in this cell, it's G5, which is 4.75, plus H27. This down here is H27, 0.25. That worked. If I go to this next one, I want this next one to be adding the previous cell, G6, which it did, plus I want it to still add this bin, which is H27, but it's not. It went to H28, which is this next line. To fix this, I'm going to go back to the original formula. If I put a $sign before the H and before the 27, it's going to then, every time I copy this formula, it's always going to use H27. That fixes my bin sizes. If you don't want to go through all that trouble, if that doesn't make sense to you, what you could have done is just typed in 4.75 and then 5 and then 0.25 more and just typed them all in. But I think we have Excel, we should use it to do these calculations for us. Let's make all these bin numbers 3 decimal places. So I right click on it, I click number, and I change it 3 decimal places, and that gets our bin. So now we're going to do a histogram of this. To create a histogram, you need these bins. So essentially what this is going to do, it's going to tell us how many numbers in our data set fit in each of these intervals. So we're going to go to Data, select Data Analysis. I'm going to choose on our list Histogram, click it, and then click OK. Now it's asking us some questions here. If these aren't blank, then blank them out. Where it says input range, what numbers are we making a histogram of? Well, I'm choosing these numbers over here, so I highlight them. When I get to the end, bin range. I click in here. My bin is ranging from 4.75 to 6.5. I highlight those. Output range. Where do we want this information to be output? Let's say I wanted to output it here at J5. And then make sure that this chart output is clicked. Make sure labels is not clicked. Hit OK. So we have a frequency and a bin, and we have a histogram. Here's how the bin works. All the numbers from 4.75 down to 0, we have one of those such numbers. That's why this says 1. All the numbers between 4.75 and up to and including 5, we have none. Between 5 and up to 5.25 and including that number, we have 0. Bigger than 5.25, up to 5.5 and including it, we have 3 of those numbers. This continues for this frequency table. If you look at your histogram, we have 1 number in this first bin. No numbers in this bin, no numbers in this bin. We have 3, 3, 3, 1, and 1. This basically completes what we were trying to accomplish, but now we're just going to mess with this histogram a little bit to make it a little bit nicer. For one, the word histogram is not a good title for a histogram. This is measuring heights, so I type heights in there by double-clicking it. I'm going to double-click on bin. This was the height in inches, pardon me, in feet. That was for the horizontal axis. Our vertical axis is the frequency. We don't need to change that. I would like this to count by 0.5s instead of counting by 4s. So instead of counting by 1s, I should say. I'm going to double click on these numbers and then click on Axis Options. Click on Axis Options here. It's going from a minimum of 0 to 4, which I want. My major axis, these major units I should say, it's counting by ones. I want it to count by halves. So I'm going to put 0.5 in there. Now it's counting by 0.5s, which is much better. However, my numbers are all jumbled. So I'm going to grab this chart and pull it down or pull it up. Now I can see these numbers better. I also don't like how these numbers are angled. So I'm going to double click on that. I'm going to go to Text Options. I'm going to click on here with Text Box. I'm going to make this a -60. So you can see how you can mess with it. We want this to be -60. Also, I don't like the fact that these bars have so much space between them. I'm going to double click on the bar. I'm going to go to the series options. The gap width right now is 150%. See, if I move this, it changes how those bars are. I can make them really far apart or really close together. Let's change this to, let's say, 10%. So those are the basics. Hope this made sense to you. There are lots of things you can do with Excel. This is just one tiny application of it.